Welcome back, everybody, to today's podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about GIGO. What is GIGO? It's not an action figure. It is GIGO in business, and that stands for garbage in, garbage out. Now, we're going to get into that terminology a little bit later in the piece, but basically, it's about how what you feed your mind impacts your results. Now, this isn't news. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this before, but I wanted to break it down a little bit more and how what we're actually feeding our mind and what we're actually talking to ourselves actually can have an impact on how our business runs. So, if you've ever felt like you're doing all the things in business, but you're still hitting roadblocks, I mean, it's a natural thing that happens. Maybe it's a little bit about the input and not so much about your strategy. So GIGO is a concept that can have a really big impact. So basically, garbage in, garbage out is originally coined from a computer science term, but it's really good at applying to your mindset and your business and your overall decision making. And it's really powerful, kind of more than you, I think, appreciate. So, what is garbage in, garbage out? I love the terminology, by the way. So, GIGO comes from the early days of computer programming. If flawed or biased or poor quality data is input into your computer, the output, of course, will also be flawed. So it was coined in the 1960s. And as I said, it's a popular term in computing, but has evolved into a sort of life and leadership type principle. And to move over to the translation bridge into how this relates to business and mindset, if you're feeding your brain with fear-based content or negative self-talk or doom scrolling, or you're in the scroll hole on Instagram or whatever social media platform you're on, you're subjecting yourself to those comparison traps, whether you like it or not. And the kind of decisions that you're making may inadvertently or subconsciously be coming from those things that you're seeing, and you're putting yourself into that headspace when you're on these platforms and consuming this content. So let's look at some real life applications in regards to first up, business strategy choices. Consuming too many quick fixes or online business hacks can create severe clutter, and confusion in what's going on in your head. You may not see it, but all those things that you're inputting or taking in may just be literally taking up real estate. And you're acting from a place of urgency instead of clarity. And that really leads to major chaotic, sometimes very scrambled decisions, and you can come across as being sort of all over the shop. You see it a lot online when people are unfortunately chasing a certain thing and they chop and change really quickly to whatever they think is hot at the moment or whatever they think is trending. And of course, then you lose maybe a little bit of security or a feeling of knowing the person and the rest of it, because they're sort of very choppy and changey and things like that. And the second one is mindset and self-talk. So if your internal dialogue, not necessarily stuff that you speak out loud, but the stuff that you're thinking in your head, are things like, I'm not good at tech, nobody's watching my content, everyone else is doing it better than I am, that's garbage in, and the output is, from our perspective, is procrastination, inaction, or misaligned offers. So those things that are rolling around in your head is that kind of self-talk or that inner dialogue that actually comes out or manifests in real life as in something tangible, as you're putting it off, you're not taking any action because you're afraid of the outcome, or you're aligning yourself with things that may not be quite right. And the third one is your environment. Okay, so who are you surrounded by? Not in real life, well, in real life, yes, but also when I say who you surround yourself with, those are things like, the groups that you're joining in the social platforms, who you're associating with in real life, possibly friends and family, maybe that not feeding you what you need. I'm not saying to go and abandon your friends and family. I'm just talking about, recognizing those traits of the garbage in speak, and that kind of infiltrating into your life. And so, yeah, what else could you be doing better in regards to your environment? So think about who you're surrounded by, those Facebook groups, where people might just be a bit of a bitch fest, and they're just really poking fun at people trying to do right things and things. That all that stuff that you're consuming, that's all input. So that's all garbage in. And are you listening to like more uplifting podcasts, or are you exposing yourself to like cynical news before you sit down and write your content? It's these things are very incestuous and very sometimes hard to recognize. So that's why I wanted to list them out today. I mean, I'll give you a real life example. I don't listen to mainstream media news only because it's extremely, extremely negative. And I mean, I know news is news and people want to stay up to date and things like that. And my husband gets up very early in the morning to go to work, and he'll always put the news on. It's just a habit because he gets the early international news when he's up in the morning, and it's just kind of a bit of white noise in the background. And occasionally I'll sort of hear it, and it's all just who's been murdered, there's been an accident, or there's been a break-in, or there's some war raging somewhere in the world. And I'm not saying that those things aren't important, but what I'm saying is that those things need to have a little bit of a filter in regards to what you're actually consuming, because whether you think you're not taking it on board or not, you actually are, and it takes up real estate in your mind. So let's look at some signs that you may be in a GIGO loop, garbage in, garbage out loop. They could be you're constantly comparing but not creating. So, as an example, save reels piling up for inspiration that you never use or you never implement. I'm guilty of that. If you go into my saved folders in my Instagram, I've got all these glorious, fantastical reels and funny reels, and I do use a lot for inspiration. Like I cook a lot for myself, so I have a lot of cooking reels that I keep when I go back to when I want to see how to implement them. But that sort of comparison-itis is really, really strong on social media. And another thing you may be doing that's putting you in that GIGO loop is that you have the feeling of being really overwhelmed, but the work you're doing isn't actually moving the needle on where you want to be. So you're constantly kind of chasing or looking for something, but that work that you're doing is creating more of an overwhelm than an actual outcome. And another one is you keep tweaking what you're doing, your offer, whether you're a business owner, whether you're working in the online space, whatever it is you're doing. So you constantly keep tweaking that offer, but you haven't actually tested it with real feedback. So it's constantly like a little bit of a work in progress. You always want to make it better. You always want to make it that little bit, it's not quite right. It's not quite finished. It's not quite polished. So you're so consistently obsessed about finishing that to make it look perfect that you actually never really get any real life feedback on it. And that could be a sign that you're actually stuck in that loop. So let's look at how to clean up some of these things that you may be sort of bringing in via the GIGO loop. So some practical suggestions are a little bit of an audit on your digital diet. So ask the questions like, who am I following that inspires, educates, or expands me? So ask these questions to yourself. So maybe just sit down, journal them out. Who am I following that inspires, educates, or expands me. And another question is, who am I following? Who am I following that makes me shrink? That I may sort of kind of coil back or go, oh, I don't like that. Or, yeah. So just kind of think out loud, journal those out, and write down your responses. Another suggestion is to replace your scroll time with soul time. So maybe choose a podcast, a new podcast that you've been suggested, choose an audio book, or maybe a YouTube playlist that fuels that positivity or that new road that you want to be more creative on. And another thing you can do is do a journal prompt. I have a gratitude diary, and that's just basically, so at the end of every day or at the beginning of every day or whatever, however it works out, I've got my journal there and I can write out anything that's going on in my head, get it out of my head, get the garbage out, and just fill up my journal with whatever it is that you're going to be journaling. And these could be prompts like, what have I been feeding my mind with lately? And actually list those things out. Or it could be, is that supporting the business owner I'm trying to become? So just a couple of journal prompts there that you can use. And this is a really important one and is probably overlooked quite majorly, and that's to set boundaries on negativity that you may come across. So leave those groups, exit those groups, mute people. You can silence people on Facebook for 30 days and you don't see their posts or anything like that until you decide what you want to do, whether you still want to be associated with them or things like that. You can unsubscribe. So protect your focus or what you're seeing like it's a bit of a lifeblood, like it's your paycheck, because it is, because those things that you're exposing yourself to are affecting the final outcome. So I get this a lot. I get this a lot working in the online space in the high ticket area. And I've found that negativity will come. It's just part of the parcel. But the secret is not to live there, not to let that garbage stay. Literally take the garbage out. So people like, Gary Vee and Tony Robbins and all these huge influencers and motivational people and lots of other people get massive amounts of hate. And unfortunately, as part of the course, those people are always going to exist. But be strong and set yourself those boundaries to protect yourself and not expose yourself continually or to engage with the garbage in and let that take up real estate. So a little bit of a wrap up. You can't expect gold level results from trash level inputs. Now, I love that. So I was going to say that again. You can't expect gold level results from trash level inputs. And another one, your brain is your most powerful business tool. What you feed it matters most. So those two quotes again. You can't expect gold level results from trash level inputs. And your brain is your most powerful business tool. What you feed it matters most. So if any of this, guys, has resonated with you today, I encourage you to take just 10 minutes and do this audit. Do this input audit and take a closer look. Get the microscope out. Make the list. Do the journaling. Think about what you're watching. Think about what you're listening to. Think about what you're absorbing. And flip the script. And I promise you, you will see a shift in your output if you stick with it and do these regular audits and kind of give some time and think about what you're actually exposing yourself to, whether it's audio, whether it's visual, whether it's what you're reading. So that's it for today. I've got some references that I'll drop into the actual body of the description for you, just in regards to some people that we've quoted and things like that. So one of them is from Atomic Habits, and that's James Clear, and obviously the definition of GIGO. Again, I would love your feedback. Again, I would love your follow if you're not following me so far. And As always, I would love to hear if you want me to talk about anything or do research on anything that you might be struggling on, whether it's anything around your mindset or whether something that you're struggling with, or even a tech tip within your side within inside your business. I'm happy to do a podcast for you and provide you with some help. So until next time, have a fantastic day.